one.
Hello, I'm Summer. I'm a visual artist. I'm really grateful to LTYC for facilitating this workshop today. It's called Meaningful Mandalas. And so, yeah, today we're going to be working on making a mandala, which is kind of a petal-like construction. And we're going to be kind of working with the energies that sometimes happen with us, through the course of our day, things that cause us stress, anxiety, doubt, uncertainty, just kind of focusing on the things that, we deal with and allowing ourselves to release that through creative expression. So I'm going to start actually by talking a little bit about myself. So like I said, I'm a visual artist. But everybody, I think, who is an artist has a very unique story as to why they turn to art as a way of expressing themselves, why they feel really passionate about creating. So for me, I think I always enjoyed drawing, but there came a point in my life, actually, I was fairly young, around 11 years old, that I really started to struggle with depression. At that time, I was very isolated, and I felt really, estranged, didn't have a lot of friends, and was really struggling with my own identity, really trying to understand myself. But, I continued to struggle with depression and experience a lot of anxiety for many, many years. And one of the things that I've noticed is that I was and still am a very sensitive person that, gets very easily overwhelmed by events, by my own emotions. But it was never shown to me how to process the things that were happening to me. So one of the things that I really just felt like I needed to do was to express my feelings in some way. And so for me, that was through the visual arts that I didn't know that I could find the words to express how I was feeling. But I knew that I needed to get them out in some way. And so drawing and creating art, in particular, mandalas, has been a really, really cathartic process that's really helped me heal a lot of the things that I've struggled with in my life. So I'm gonna share my screen really quick and show you a couple of pictures of my work. Okay, let's go back. All right, so these are actually some of the mandalas that I've drawn. And I think one of the big questions is, what is so interesting about the mandala? So for me, using this particular type of art form has been really grounding for me. I've often felt very disconnected to my body, sort of lost in myself, very ungrounded. And a lot of the repetitive elements of the mandala have been really helpful to just kind of have something to focus on, to work on a pattern, to work on something that I can kind of do over and over again while, my mind takes the journey that it needs to at the same time. So I love using the mandala to kind of help myself work through a process that I'm going through. And so the next thing that I'm going to do before we actually start working on our pieces is to just move through a very brief guided meditation. And this is just a little activity that we can do, especially, like life happens so quickly and, it's so easy to get scattered and just feel like we're all over the place. Life is just happening so quickly. So let's just take a moment and just start to take a couple of deep breaths in and out. And they can be really loud if that feels good. You just want to kind of let that breath out. They can be quiet, whatever you prefer, whatever kind of makes that feel good for you. Just keep breathing in and out. You can close your eyes. I think that kind of helps to, let go of all that external stuff that's happening. And as you keep breathing, just pay attention to what you're giving yourself through that breath. One of the things that I always notice about myself is that when I'm anxious or I'm really freaked out about something, I tend to tense up my body and I hold in my breath, and I suddenly come back to myself and I realize that I've been barely breathing. And it's a really simple gesture, and at the same time, when we remind ourselves to breathe, we're really giving ourselves life. We're taking in what we need to, and we're letting go of what we need to. So just keep on with that breathing, and just feel into the experience of doing something so simple. And so as we keep on breathing, let's start to do what I call spring cleaning breaths. And for me, this means, when you're taking in that breath, you're letting in the world, without the feeling of fear that sometimes we have. We're worried about things happening. We're worried about, how the world affects us, but we're just kind of letting in all of the goodness that surrounds us, and opening up to the freedom of the moment that can really go in any direction. So we take that really cleansing breath in, and when we breathe out, just take whatever you might, when you were breathing in, maybe you kind of felt some tightness inside. It's like trying to take a good deep breath, but there was still something that was kind of holding you back. So whatever's gathered up inside of you, just take a deep breath out and just imagine that you're just pushing all of that stuff out. Whatever you need to breathe out, just breathe it out. So just take that breath in, just welcome in everything that's happening. And just breathe out everything you don't need anymore. Just that wonderful spring clean, spring breathing exercise. And just do that for a couple more breaths. And when you're ready, if you've got your eyes closed, start to open them and come back to where we are here together. Again, thank you for taking this moment with me, just breathing with me. I feel like it's a really good way to start. It's easy to kind of just barrel into a topic. So thank you for helping ground down with me. So what we're going to start talking about first is the chakra system. So this is just like an introduction to what we're going to be focusing on with our mandalas today. So the chakra system is a way of understanding the energy that comes in and out of our body. It has to do really with the experiences that we have in life. As we experience life, usually things will just happen, we experience them, and they leave us. But sometimes we have painful experiences. And one of the hardest things in life is when they really bother us, or they really, disturb something within us. And so instead of just something happening and then the next thing happening, sometimes we hold on to that energy. And so, if someone really hurts us, we might really feel as though the area surrounding our heart just feels hard or blocked. When we're feeling that pain, our heart really hurts. Or if there's something that is causing us a lot of anxiety, we might really just feel nausea, like sort of like a stiffness in our stomach, this immense discomfort. So different experiences might cause us to take in that energy and hold it in a particular area of our body. So what we're going to do today is we're going to draw the mandala, and for each kind of layer of the mandala, we're going to use a particular color of the chakra system. And I'll go through and show you what each of those are. And so I'm going to switch back to me. Hang on. So what we're going to do now is show you how we're going to start our activity today. So what I've got here is a whole bunch of plates and bowls, like jar lids, all kinds of stuff in here. So we're actually going to draw 7 circles on a piece of paper. So what I think I would recommend that you do is draw those circles in pencil, so you can erase them later. They're just going to be, each layer that we're going to draw petals on. So I'll start with the largest one here. I'm just going to put this plate against my paper and just trace that with my pencil. Just do the same thing for each one of these circles. And they don't have to be perfect. They're just kind of like a guide that we can use. Yeah, definitely doesn't have to be perfect. All right, final circle. All right, so I don't know if the lighting is good enough for you to see, but here are my 7 circles. And now I'm going to take us back to some examples of how to actually draw the mandala, because we've got these different layers. And now the question is how to really decorate these, fill them with stuff. So let's go back here. So I just included a little diagram to show you the different petal types that you can use. You can invent your own. These are just some simple ones. But this is just an example. Each circle is going to have these petals on it. So these are just a couple of examples of how you can use different petal shapes, different little designs. I like to use polka dots and like kind of little tiny mini petals inside of the petals sometimes. So those are just some examples. So here's an example of what your finished design might like, because each circle is going to have petals. So here's a 5-petal design that I created real quickly. And if you want to use this example and these petal type diagrams while you're creating, I just invite you, you're welcome to go to my website. Just go to summerblake.com. And type in petal-shapes, summerblake.com/petal-shapes, if you want to use this as a reference. And so we're pretty much ready to get started. So what I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about each chakra. We're going to start with the root chakra as the first layer of our mandala. So I'll tell you which color each chakra is. And if you have markers, if you have any kinds of coloring devices, you can use that to color in each layer. If you don't, I also welcome you to use, your pencil or pen to create shapes within the petals that kind of mirror that, the nature of each chakra. So the root chakra has a lot to do with the earth, with feeling grounded. So if you want to draw, something that reminds you of earth, like earthworms or the roots of trees or something in each petal, that also is a really wonderful way to incorporate the feeling of that particular energy. So we're going to start with the root chakra. And this particular chakra has to do with things like safety, stability, and survival. So this particular chakra is often located at the very base of our spine. So often if we're having issues that are related to the chakra, we might actually experience like some lower back pain, like pain in the bottom areas of the body. And this particular chakra is usually associated with the color red. And I love that because I love to think of sort of because it has to do with grounding. I just imagine, that deep, earthy, clay red color that, is of the earth, that very rich color. So when the chakra's in balance, we usually feel grounded and secure. But when it is out of balance, when we're experiencing things that are challenging in this area, we might feel really ungrounded and disconnected. Throughout the course of my life, I actually struggled with eating disorders for almost half of my life. And a lot of that was trying to express a deep level of disconnection from my body. And so, it became so important for me to find different ways of expressing the emotions that I was feeling. But the root chakra energy was something that I was struggling with. That part of my identity was feeling incredibly blocked. So this is also associated very much with feeling a lot of fear. So an affirmation I like to say to myself is, even when life is at its most overwhelming, I will find a way through. So just reminding myself to see beyond the present moment, even though it can be really, really difficult. So I'm going to go back to the video, and let's just start working on the chakra, just keeping in mind the idea of groundedness and stability, all these things that kind of give us the structure for our lives. So we'll start with the smallest inner petal, or inner layer. So we'll start by just creating the petals with a Sharpie, so I can get that clear outline, and then I'll start coloring them in and adding patterns and things like that. So just to show you, this is the one that I made. So just got some very simple petals with a little bit of a gradient. So I'm gonna let everything, oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Saz. Awesome. All right, well, we're gonna move to the next chakra. And I'm gonna share the screen again. All right, so we're going to be working with the sacral chakra now. And this has a lot to do with our emotions and our ability to be creative in ourselves. So this chakra is orange. Well, it's usually associated with the lower abdomen, sort of like the area below the stomach. And so, when we're feeling balanced in this area, we're able to embrace change. Like we're okay with changes in life. When it's out of balance, we really struggle with change. We're very resistant to it. It triggers a lot of fear, a lot of overwhelming. So we might try to control our lives to kind of, comfort ourselves and avoid the possibility of change. And so for me, I definitely have always felt comfortable trying to exert a little bit of control, but I also noticed that the more I try to control my life, the more out of control it feels. So it's definitely been a journey toward understanding that, there are a few little things that I can change or control in life, but it's often better to sit back a little bit and be open to what's coming instead of fearing it. So it's definitely, you know, a journey where you learn as you go on with it. But one of the affirmations that I like to share has to do with releasing feelings of shame or guilt. Because often, you might be trapped in a bad habit or something. And then I, start to guilt myself and telling myself, oh, like, why can't you do this a different way? Why can't you change this? And that often keeps me trapped in the cycle because the negativity, I keep perpetuating it for myself and I get stuck in it. So, releasing the feelings of shame and guilt that I have really helps me move forward. So, in forgiving myself, I allow myself to move forward rather than remain stuck. And I love dancing as a way of uh, helping with this, helping ease some of the blockage with this chakra. So again, this one is orange. So let's use an orange color to fill in these petals. All right. Anyone want to share their second chakra petal layer, sacral chakra? Ooh, I love all the detail. This is so wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
I'm finding this to be extremely relaxing. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I hope I've been heard the whole time. I tried sharing the screen and it seemed like it was muted.
Yeah,
So
totally fine. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I can see the detail of what you're doing as well. It looks awesome.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the share screen. Okay, so we're going to move on to the solar plexus chakra. So this one actually is usually seen as yellow, but there are a couple of alternate colors. So you can see that I went with a light blue and kind of a salmon color for this. So it's always, we always have our own interpretations of how things are. So, if any of these colors or descriptions don't resonate with you, please feel free to do the thing that speaks to you the most. And I think that's pretty important for this one too, because this chakra has to do with our confidence and our self-esteem and the sense of power that we hold in our own lives. And so when this chakra is in a state of balance, when the energy in this area of our body is in a good place, we do really feel self-confident, and we're able to be independent and stand in our own power. We have a perception of ourselves as empowered. Of course, sometimes things are out of balance for us. And so we may really feel unconfident. We might be overcritical of ourselves, or we may be really dependent on how others see us, as we're kind of evaluating our own opinion of ourselves. And might find it difficult to believe in ourselves if we feel that others' opinions aren't as high as we would want them to be. So when it comes to stuff like this, I go through periods of self-doubt and really struggling with how I see myself. I've always been very self-conscious of my body, but I also am a perfectionist. So a lot of times I just don't feel as though my work is up to par. And so it's always really important to me to take a moment and remind myself that I am doing the judging that is making me unhappy. Like, it's not really the situation. It's me making the decision to see things a particular way. So I really like to remind myself that I can choose to let go of judgmental and critical thought patterns, and tell myself that I am capable of more than I can possibly imagine. And I think often that's the only thing that helps me achieve the things that bring me joy in life, when I remind myself that I can do them. Sometimes I just have a belief that I can't, and that's the only thing that prevents me from doing the thing that I want to do. So this one, like I said, is yellow. Feel free to use yellow. I know it doesn't show up very well, so if you want to use an alternate color, go for it. And this chakra, and this chakra is also connected to the sun power. So when I'm doing this petal, I really like to use like the idea of the rays of sun. So this one for me is a little bit more angular, but whatever feels right for you, go with that.
For students watching this, would you recommend a straight edge for those angular parts, a ruler, something in particular that you find handy?
Yeah, I think that's a really great idea. And you never really even have to have a ruler. If you just have like a thick piece of plastic, you can always use that to just make your lines like straight and clean.
So for those art teachers who are watching, something that I've done in the past for line quality, and I want to know what you think about this as a mandala and, expert of this craft. So I always say to try to keep my pen or pencil, whatever drawing utensil I'm using, on the paper for as long as possible before lifting. What kinds of tricks and techniques do you recommend for the best type of line quality?
I think I think some skilled artists will keep their paper in the same place throughout the entirety of their creation process. But I've actually found that it really helps me to turn the paper because I might be working on something in an angle with my arm that's really difficult. So I agree. I think it's, to really get that consistent line, it's wonderful to just keep going on the paper. But I also think it's, because everybody has a different comfort level with, where their arm needs to be. I always encourage moving the paper, like, doing what you need to get your body in the place it needs to be with the creation material itself.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I feel like my biggest piece of advice is really to come to art as you are. I love challenging myself and I love trying new things. But I think one of my struggles is that, I might feel really challenged by something and, it makes me afraid to do it. And what I always feel is most successful for me is to do what I know I can do. And once I have that feeling of success, then I feel encouraged to try new things. So I think it's really beautiful to match up success with confidence. So you do something you know that you can do, and the boost that gives you the inspiration and the courage to try something that you're not quite as comfortable with. All right, so we're going to move on to the next chakra. So the next one, the heart chakra, is really one of my favorites. I really loved making the piece on the right-hand side. The face, I think, is really precious. There's this warm feeling to the heart chakra. And when I was learning about the chakras at first, I was really surprised that the color of the heart chakra is green. I was expecting it to be red. And I think that, the reason for this has to do with life. Like, we're right now, as this is being recorded, it's spring. And, the first signs of spring are green. It's life emerging again. And I think the greatest expression of love that we can experience is simply the happening of life, that life finds a way, that life is so connected between all things. Every part of the environment that we live in is dependent upon each other for stability and support. So love is a really complicated topic, but I think we find ourselves in balance with this heart chakra when we find a balance between giving love and receiving love, and we don't feel afraid to give and receive that love. So we're capable of experiencing compassion for ourselves, and we're also capable of giving it to ourselves and paying attention to our own needs. So, when the heart chakra is out of balance, we might have difficulty enforcing healthy boundaries between ourselves and others. We might give too much love, withhold from others, or we just might really not treat ourselves with the care and attention that we really need in order to experience joy in life. And this is often subtle, so I think it's always important to spend a little time each day sitting with yourself and seeing if there's something that you haven't noticed that you might need to tend to within yourself. So, for me, I struggle with self-care because I do have a long history with an eating disorder. And, it just creates a lot of habits that, have caused me to neglect myself. So again, I think the checking in is really important of not ignoring your needs, but being aware of them. So the affirmation that I like to give to myself is, I am worthy of love. I honor and listen to my needs. And just that reminder that, that is a beautiful thing to do for ourselves. There's nothing wrong with loving ourselves. It's one of the most difficult and most powerful things that we can do. And I think I really think a powerful expression of that can really just to look at ourselves in the mirror. It can be really hard to look ourselves in the eye. We don't often have that direct connection with ourselves. But if we can actually look ourselves in the eye, look ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves that we love ourselves, that can really do so much in terms of healing. And if it's difficult, I think it's an important message about the fact that, we have some work to do with ourselves, but we are all worthy of love. So I think this is a really powerful chakra to work on. And again, for anybody who might not happen to have markers with them or anything to color with, for this one, just as an example, I started with kind of like these strokes of green that kind of reminded me of grasses. So if you don't have color to add to this, but you want to indicate something that's green, there's so many beautiful examples of objects that we can use to show that greenness. All right, so we're going to move on to the next one. Would anybody like to share what they've got so far? Ooh, I like how vibrant it is in the center. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I'm learning so much about colors and connections, especially with these chakras, and how it closely relates to just like personal ideas that I have about myself and everything around me. So thank you.
Cool. Oh, that's really wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing.
So out of curiosity, what you have going on your paper, are there decisions that you're making in particular as far as like shape that you feel like your subconscious is just drawn to after making these for so long?
I think, yeah, I think there's so much that happens within the subconscious where the mind is, the mind is working actively, but there's also kind of this undercurrent that's underground that's saying, this is what I want to do with this pen. I think for me, when I'm working on more complex pieces, there's a necessity. I need to create a structure. I need to do some sketches and some drawings to figure out where I'm going. But how I really started with art was just by doing it. I think some of the most like miraculously interesting pieces just happen. Usually what I do is I'll take my compass. So I'll just draw those series of circles. And just like this drawing, I work layer by layer. And it's always interesting to look back because at the end, I can see how all of the pieces connect to each other, that usually there's a flow from each part to the next. And I think that's like this kind of subconscious design where, that secret self knows where it's going, but we don't consciously know. And I think that's one of the greatest things that, I often think of myself in a superficial way, just what's happening for me, what my thoughts are in that moment. But there's this very subtle, like what I feel is like an endless self underneath all of it. And so creating the art connects me to that self that I know so little about. And I really love learning about that.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's really fascinating, just the things that we do without even paying attention to it. So yeah, I love what you have on your paper too.
Thank you.
Admiring it. Yeah, it's just very seamless for you too. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, well, it's funny too. I think whenever what I like to say about art and being an artist and just anybody who creates anything, the artist sees all the flaws in what they do. And they look at it, they're like, oh, I messed up this part. People are gonna look at this and they're gonna grimace. But most of it is internal. Like people see the result. People see that the full manifestation of what happened. So I love seeing other people's work and seeing it from, my own point of view. And I love hearing what people have to say about my art. So thanks for sharing yours and thanks for your praise.
Of course, thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to try and fit this into the hour. I've got 2 more chakras to go. So I think I'm just going to present on the chakras and we'll see if I have time to work on the art myself. But as I'm talking, please just keep creating. Okay, so the 6th chakra is the 3rd eye chakra. And the color is usually indigo. So that's like kind of a very deep blue purple color. So take whatever creative liberty you want with that. But this chakra has to do with our ability to see truth for what it really is. And that also involves trusting our intuition. I think there have been so many moments in my life where if something didn't really feel right, and but I kind of allowed myself to go forward with it anyway. It's like, oh well, I don't think this is going to work out, but I already put a lot of effort into it, so I'm going to go this direction. Or I don't know if I really want to attend this event. It just doesn't feel like the right thing for me, but I already committed to it. Or all these times when we feel something with our gut, or we feel an instinct, and we don't listen to it. So the 3rd eye chakra has to do with trusting in some of the deep sensing that we experience, which I think is really beautiful because it involves trusting our deepest self, which is disconnected from a lot of sort of like the neurotic thoughts that we have that kind of cloud our perception of what's really happening. So my affirmation for this is, I trust my intuition. I see beyond the narrow reality that fear creates for me, and I open myself up to the limitlessness of possibility. So I think also, it's easy to become very fixed in our beliefs or fixed in our conviction. Like we might just think that there's only one right way to do things. So the third eye chakra is just about kind of broadening our view, just kind of widening our perception so that we can see outside of, our own experience and see more deeply into the bigger picture. So it's really, really beautiful when we start to see the broader view of what's really happening and open up to that.
Hey, Shaylin.
Hi.
Hello. How's it going, Shaylin?
Everything's well.
Thanks for joining. We're just making some mandalas here. If you have a class you're getting ready for, no worries. If you have a moment, feel free to take out a sheet of paper and Summer can fill you in.
Yeah, what we're doing right now is so we're using the chakra system. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's basically an energy system way of understanding different aspects of ourselves, where each kind of area or each center is a different color. So we're making a mandala with that, using each color and each chakra as kind of a layer of the mandala. And we've actually just finished the 6th chakra. So feel free to catch up, or just feel free to, move at your own pace. But I'm going to be working and talking about the final chakra, which is the crown chakra. So this is the one that is located at right at the very tip or a little bit above the head. All right. So this particular chakra, like I said, is purple, which I think makes sense because this is sort of the crown of our head and our being. So it's got that kind of royal feeling to it. But the quality of this particular chakra has to do with our connections to the world, to other people. It has to do with our ability to really, understand how we have this incredible, constant interconnection with everything that surrounds us. So again, just kind of like with the third eye, we were starting to see the bigger picture. We start to kind of zoom out. So, we start to have the ability to be a little more objective rather than only focused on ourselves. And it's important to attend to our needs and make sure that we're provided for and give ourselves what we need. But we also see how we're connected to everything else. And we see that we see ways to have a role within the context of the bigger world. So, this can become dysfunctional when, we start to obsess over, materialistic pursuits and, trying to gain power over others to feel some control in our lives. And when it's imbalance, we find that the right connection between the resources we need in our own lives and our ability to navigate healthy relationships with others, where we don't need to control, but we find a way to be provided for through the give and take of our relationship with the world. So the affirmation I like for this is just to remind myself, because we can also feel very disconnected and isolated, that I am not alone. I am connected to all that surrounds me. I open myself to giving and receiving love and support from the people who care about me. So we're going to go ahead and work on drawing this chakra for a moment. All right, so if the majority of you are almost done. If not, that's not a huge deal. I'm going to show mine up close and also point attention to the fact that the center is blank. And, the case might be different for everybody. Maybe you already have colored in the center. But one thing that you can do if you want to is just fill that center with whatever, energy, symbols, anything that you can think of that, is unique to you. So, feel free to take the time after the workshop to add that final touch. And that can be something that you share only with yourself if you prefer. So I guess what I want to do now is just talk a little bit about the experience as we round out the drawing part. Would anybody like to share their finished product?
This here, I want to cut this out. I feel like cutting this out will add to its power. I think it would look good on some black paper, but yeah, I definitely loved the experience of learning about each chakra and how it's in relation to different parts of the body and becoming more mindful about my my mental connection as I'm making art is something that I want to have more awareness of when I'm making my own work. So this is a really, really important stuff here. And I think in a time and a space where people maybe aren't feeling as confident or uncertain because of, external factors of life and stress itself, this is a great way to just center yourself and bring it back here and just, express gratitude for being in a mental state to do something like this. So yeah, this just, puts focus on your breath and things that truly matter when you're trying to release stress and unwind. And I think this could be a really valuable tool for our community. So yeah, I truly appreciate what you've done today.
Thank you. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that I hear from people is just, people saying they're not creative. And like, I totally get that. Some people feel that they're skilled with art, some people don't. People have different talents. But I think what's nice about the mandala is that it gives us like an opportunity to do something that's expressive, but we're not like trying to copy a face. And we think that it doesn't look like the face we want it to. Like, this is so much more open in terms of the direction you can go. And everyone is so reflective of the person who creates it. So I love seeing what people share. I just love to see what expresses them. So thank you for being a part of this, everyone who participated.
And thank you for being here as well. I know for everyone that's going to be watching this, try to find ways that you can put some of these mindful practices into your own lessons and content. I feel like this would be super engaging for students as we begin to wind down as the last part of the year is upon us. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Summer. Summer, what are the best ways to reach you?
Good question. I'm actually going to share a little blurb so you can find me online. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, Art of Summer Blake. Feel free to reach out to me by email. I would love to hear any responses that you had to my workshop. I'd love to collaborate in any way, chat with fellow artists, connect in any way that you'd like. I've also got a free sample coloring book on my site that is available for classrooms and students to print out. So it's not a real paper book, but you can just download it as a PDF. So that's at summerblake.com. And yeah, those are the best ways of getting in touch with me. So please reach out.